Nothing in this podcast or on our website should be construed as medical advice. Consult your healthcare provider for your individual nutritional and medical needs. The information presented is based on our research and is strictly that of the author and not necessarily those of any professional group or other individual.
Hi, I'm Sue Becker from Bread Beckers. Welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes. I'm so excited you've joined me today, and I hope this episode encourages you and allows you to find the answers you have been praying for the health of you and your family. Well, it's testimony time here with Sue's Healthy Minutes, and today you are in for a real treat as you're going to get to hear from perhaps the oldest Bread Becker customer, and this time I am talking about age. And I just got to tell you, we are here with Mr. Ed Wallington, and he lives here in Alpharetta. And when we walked in his apartment, all I got to tell you is the smell was overwhelming with freshly baked bread. So I am just so excited to talk to you. This week on February 23rd, Mr. Ed Wallington will turn 93 years old. When I heard that his birthday was this week, I knew I had to share his story with you. And what better time than the week of your birthday. I just am so glad to be here. I first met Ed several years ago when he came to a class, I think, at Bread Beckers with his daughter, who is also a customer. Over the years, I would see them in the store from time to time. Then 3 years ago, his daughter brought Ed into the store for a special birthday purchase. Ed wanted an Anchorshroom mixer so he could up his bread making game at his assisted living home. I knew right then that he had a story to share. At 93 years old, he's still making and sharing his bread with others. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to my friend, Ed Wallington. Ed, it is such a pleasure to be here today. I can't wait to taste that bread that you baked to share with us, and it's just a delight to be in your home. And I can't wait to hear how you started making bread. So first off, how did you hear about Bread Beckers, and what made you want to come to Bread Beckers in the first place?
Well, it started a long time ago when the first bread machines came out. I think it was called DAC or something like that.
Yes, it was. I started with one of those.
Yeah. And my buddy had one.
Yeah.
And I walked in his house and it smelled so good. And then he told me a little bit about it, and I just had to have one.
Yeah.
And then I became interested in nutrition. And then I found out what enriched flour was, by definition. And so then I became interested in the nutritional part of things. And then my wife passed away with a stroke. And that's when I learned to cook. At that time, I thought I could teach Superman how to fly, The first stroke, I'd take care of everything, closed my clinic back home, and did everything, and got even more nutritious. And then my daughter told me about Bread Beckers.
Yes.
And that's when I started
Christy.
ordering. Yeah, it's Christy. And then I started buying and coming to your classes. And then I had to leave Mississippi for physical reasons and surgery and so forth. So that's why I'm here today. And still enjoying what I'm doing and still enjoying your classes.
I'm so glad.
I wouldn't miss the Christmas. We make sure we go 2 months early to get our name on the list.
Yes. And that's actually at the Christmas class this year is where I found out that you were going to be 93 in February, which is just a few days before my birthday.
Okay.
So we have something a little bit in common. Well, you've mentioned Mississippi a couple of times. And so where are you from? Where were you born? What's your life before bread making like?
Well, I was born in the state of Texas because my father was a career military man and lived all over with him. And then I spent 26 years in the Army, retired from the Army in 1974, having been to 173 countries of the world, had a lot of embassy duty. I'm very grateful to the military. They paid for all of my education. They took me as a high school graduate, a private, paid for all of my education. Since then, I've been a faculty member. I was on the faculty for Mississippi State University for 6 years. Moved up to be Director of Career Development. And then spent my last 3 years as the psychology provider for the athletic department.
Oh, wow. At Mississippi State?
Mississippi State.
Now, did you hear the nutritional information from Bread Beckers, or you already had been learning about the enriched white flour and what they're doing to the flour commercially?
Yeah, I learned basically
Yes.
about that. And then when I got here is when I learned more with Bread Beckers. And
Yes.
my daughter took me out and introduced me to you. And
Yeah. Started listening to me.
started listening
Coming to
you.
class.
Yes. Wouldn't miss it.
Yeah, I know. We would miss seeing you if you weren't there. When did you start milling your grain and making
mill
your bread?
my
That was
grain,
about 4 years ago, 5
No,
years
about
ago?
20 years ago.
Okay. Has it been that long?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. You were in a class one time. It's been a while ago.
Mm-hmm. But my other friend, he had this little bitty
Yep.
thing with a little mill stone ground
Yeah.
flour. Real slow,
Yeah.
but he would grind the flour for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then
So did this bread making venture, I've seen your bookshelves. You have more cookbooks than I do. So did this bread making venture then, it came naturally for you, right? It wasn't difficult when you started milling your own flour.
no. And it's just a way of life now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have become an ambassador even.
I know. Here in your beautiful community, yes, I hear you help share your bread with others.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people see and share health benefits that they saw once they begin to mill their own flour. Did you notice anything, any changes in your health once you began to mill the flour and make the bread
Yeah.
that way?
I had an increase of energy, especially.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's noticeable,
Yeah.
isn't it?
You notice it right away.
Yes.
Okay. Of course, the taste is just heavenly.
Yes. There is no comparison.
I have never met a person yet that did not like my bread.
Yep.
I've not met one.
That is amazing.
And what you smell now, you can know when I was baking this, it fills the hallway
Yes.
up here. And I think we have about 126 apartments in this building. And everybody knows when
Ed's
is
making bread. Yes.
yeah. And they stand in line because they know that I cannot eat a whole loaf of bread. I explain to them it has no preservatives. Explain to them a little discourse on exactly what enriched flour means.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And they all love it.
That is amazing.
So
They start coming to your door and checking on you, saying, "Hey, we just want to make sure you're okay," when they smell that going down the hall.
yeah.
Well, I can surely attest. That was the first thing we thought. When we walked in that door, we're like, oh my goodness. Of course, I said it smells like home, but it smells delicious. And I think you said you have some pumpkin bread for us.
Yeah, this is a recipe that I concocted. I'm looking at all the other recipes. And it's got pumpkin in it. And it's got half hard white, half hard red. And got orange in it.
Ooh.
It's got orange infused
The olive oil.
that I
Yes.
get from you.
That is my favorite.
Yeah. And
Did you put cranberries in it?
and cranberry.
Yeah. Yep. You're talking my language now.
Yeah. And everybody loves it. So
Yeah. So I thought you had mentioned before that do you actually teach some of the people here in your community to make the bread, or they just want to eat it?
well, kind of both.
Yeah.
3 times they have asked me to give a class.
Yes.
Or not some class, but a lecture.
Yeah.
And like the first one, I made a bunch of packages of little wheat grains.
The flour.
Or
the wheat.
This is the wheat grain.
Okay.
So show them what we start with. Mm-hmm. And I took my mill with me and some grain to grind. And then I had a big aid of what a grain of wheat, the anatomy of a grain of wheat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And explained that. And I brought them a loaf of bread that I bought from Publix the night before, read them the instructions.
Or the ingredients.
And I gave each of them a slice of it. start with. I said, so you know what that tastes like. So you'll have something to compare.
That's pretty interesting. I've never thought about that. Yeah.
And then we gave them, like you do for the classes, some of the bread I'd already cooked.
Right.
Showed them how the mill worked and so forth. It went over so well that they asked me to go to other places to do it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Outside of your community here?
Yeah. Well, this organization, they own 4 homes like this.
Okay.
So those were first and the other places. And then this was done first in the place I lived before I came here.
Yeah. Just to clarify, Mr. Wallington lives here in Alpharetta in a assisted living home, and it's beautiful. Wow. It's really beautiful. So.
Yeah. I'm happy.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment with a full-size kitchen and a special counter for your Ankeshrew mixer.
Yeah.
And that's how I just knew when your daughter brought you in the store and said, my dad wants an Ankeshrew mixer for his 90th birthday. I'm like, okay, most people at 90 are downsizing. Who wants to get the biggest and best mixer for their birthday at 90 years old? I often hear people, and it saddens me as they get older. And my husband Brad and I now we can be considered elderly.
Not quite.
Okay, we're not quite as elderly as you. We don't have quite the wisdom in life that you've led yet, but I hear them all the time say, yeah, I used to make bread, when my kids were young, but they're grown. We're empty nesters now. And, some say my spouse passed away and it's just me. I don't want to bake for just me. But it seems like that's what turned your switch on to want to bake. And it saddens me that here we come to this place in our life where we actually have a little more time on our hands where we could be sharing this amazing bread with other people. In the scripture, it tells us in, I think it's in Timothy, can't remember if it's 1st or 2nd Timothy, that this bread that God gave us was meant to be shared with Thanksgiving. And I just think what a beautiful ministry you actually have. And we're never too old.
That's right.
We're never too old to start something new, are we?
And everybody loves my Ezekiel bread.
Yeah.
And some of them never heard it. Some of them say, well, I buy that all the time from Publix. But once they taste my Ezekiel bread,
they're like, oh.
I mean, I could go in business.
Well,
but I don't want to be in business.
Yeah.
But I told them, I said, well, I'll fix up how much it cost me for the ingredients, And they're a little bit shocked on how much the olive oil costs.
Yes.
And things like that,
Yeah.
But they still pay me the cost.
Yeah.
With inflation the way it is today,
I know.
We're buying eggs for 85 cents a dozen, and now they're $4 or something a dozen.
Last I bought was $7 a dozen, so I may have to quit putting eggs in my bread, but anyway. I find that it's still more economical. The bread fills you up. It satisfies you. You don't waste your money buying other stuff because you don't want other stuff that we call food, junk, because the bread fills you up.
Well, being a psychologist, this is what I explain to people.
Yeah.
I tell them that the wonder that God created when he created us, that there's not another machine like us.
Nope.
Isn't it?
Especially not our heart.
That's right. And just everything about us. But one of the things about us is we have all of these little signals that come up to us.
Yes.
And so if we are hungry, that's a signal.
Yeah.
Now, as you know, there are 44 vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that we have to have just to maintain life.
Yes.
And if our body needs it, it sends a signal up, and the signal's hunger. And then when it needs liquid, it sends a signal up, I'm thirsty. Then you got all kinds of other signals. Love's a big signal. Go to the bathroom, that's some other signals. We know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
And so...
And we get that signal more regularly with real bread.
Well, what really comes in contact, the way I tell people, I said, now you got to understand why your body is doing this. And so I explained to them what enriched flour is.
Right. Nutritionally deficient.
Yes. They take all this stuff out and put some chemicals back in. And then at the end result, they do all that. Then they bleach it real white for you, and that chemical's still there. So your body has already had all that stuff taken out. So you grab this piece of bread and you eat, and you're still hungry. Why? Because your body didn't get those nutrients.
Right.
And so it still sends a signal up. And then all the part of the wheat that they do use, that's just what makes you fat.
Yep.
And once you understand that, well, then it's easier to accept the changes that you're going to make.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get into eating the more nutritious things, like our bread.
Right. That has nearly all of those 44 nutrients that we absolutely have to have.
That's right.
Yeah. Add a few fruits and vegetables, and you're pretty much there. You get out in the sunshine, you're pretty much there.
Yeah.
A, C, D, and an amino acid. Yeah.
I bet you I've got 50 residents here that live in here that love my bread. And one lady, and her name is Sue, by the way. And so I'll bake her a loaf of bread. And every morning she eats one slice of bread about that thick and her coffee. And I'll make her oatmeal for her.
Oh, my goodness. Can I move in next door to you?
No.
No, you turned your bedroom there into an office. Oh, darn.
Yeah. And so anyway, it's just she's very gratifying to help people like this, you know.
And she feels full and satisfied from the oatmeal and the bread. Yeah.
Yeah.
And wants more.
Yeah.
I remember one time a lady, she started making the bread, and actually I think she bought the bread from our bakery that we used to have. We don't have the bakery anymore, but and she called it, or she saw me, you know, and she was like, "Is this bread going to make me fat?" And I, you know, and I was like, "No." And I explained, you know, kind of like what and also the fiber fills you up.
Yeah.
And so it's not just the nutrients, but fiber fills you up. And no. And so she emailed, and when she got home, she goes, "How's this bread not going to make me fat? I ate half a loaf of raisin bread on the way home." And I said, "Well, let me ask you this. Did you eat dinner when you, after that half a loaf?" And she goes, "Well, no, actually not." And I said, "Well, you probably ate less calories in that, you know, half a loaf, 5 loaf slices of bread than you would have in a meal that you probably would have prepared from, you know, other foods and candy, cake and stuff." That was one of the things I noticed is when I started doing our own bread, making, you know, milling our flour, I didn't want sweet things. I didn't want candies. I didn't want, which we didn't really eat that way anyway, but you still, you know, you would crave those little things, and especially out to eat and stuff. I just didn't want it anymore because my body was satisfied with the good carbohydrates that I was getting. So
that's right.
Did you notice that too? Yeah.
I kind of quote my granddaddy a lot. He was an immigrant from Ireland and not really a educated man. And it was something to be right. He'd say, "Well, son, that's just all there are to it."
There you go.
I told a lot of people today, I tell them, I said, "Well, if you eat this bread, that's all there are to it."
Yes. Well, I think you told me you're still working. So you're 90. You're about to be 93 years old, and you're still working.
Still seeing clients, patients. I do.
Besides making bread.
A little more homebound now. I don't travel quite as much as I used to.
Yeah. But what a blessing. God has turned that homebound into a ministry for you.
Yeah. I love it. So
yeah. Okay. And I know your neighbors love it too.
Well, they seem to. They keep coming back.
Yeah. What a blessing you are to so many, and you're seeing lives change at 93 years old.
Yeah.
So it's making me feel like the best is yet to come. Even
it is. Just look how much beauty you've maintained.
Oh, you are so sweet. Okay, can I move in next door? I need to talk to you every day.
Brad wouldn't understand.
No, I guess he wouldn't. So we'll just have to make a point to talk to each other more often. So I just want to thank you for opening your home, your life, and sharing with us. And I think for me, perhaps one of the greatest pleasures and blessings since starting Bread Beckers more than 30 years ago is hearing the testimonies and the stories of how this bread has changed their life. And this has just been incredible. And I do want to say, if you have a bread story, please, I love to hear it. So share it with us. You can email me at support@breadbeckers.com. I'd love to hear it. But Mr. Wallington, we just want to thank you. I want to wish you a very happy birthday on February 23rd. And I just want to tell our audience, I hope you've been blessed. Thank you for listening today. I'm sure you've been inspired. Is there anything else you'd like to share or say or about the bread or?
No, I would just like to say to the audience that may be seeing me now, that if you have not discovered Bread Beckers, or not discovered one of these great wonders that God has had made here for you long before your time, today's the first day of your life to change, and you'll never regret it.
Wow.
Thank you for watching and listening.
Sue's Healthy Minutes podcast has been a presentation by the Bread Beckers Incorporated, located in Woodstock, Georgia. For more information, store hours, and learning opportunities, visit breadbeckers.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Share this with 2 friends who would benefit from this information, and be sure to join us again next week for more of Sue's Healthy Minutes.